Hi, I'm Kristen. Disrupting traditional management consulting through the power of AI technology is not just a movement, it's the heart of our mission. Here at Cultify, we're empowering leaders and employees to take action. But more importantly, we're dedicated to creating work-life cultures that are world-changing. I'm so excited that you decided to join us today to be part of this roundtable discussion as we explore what's trending in HR. Welcome, everyone. Today we are continuing our series of what's trending in HR, and we're talking about the power of recognition as a performance driver. So how strategic recognition practices and cutting-edge technology can not only boost performance, but also amplify your employer brand in the process. And if you're new to our series, we're here every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, joined by a panel of subject matter experts and thought leaders. And today, to kick off Women's History Month, I'm excited to be hearing from two impressive women in business joining us today who have a lot to say on this subject. So I'd love to just introduce our panelists. First up, we have Susan Chapman, partner at Culture Curated. Susan, would you like to say a few words as introductions? Good morning.
Certainly. Good morning. I'm happy to be here. I guess you may go ahead and tell you a little bit about us. Okay, so my name is Susan Chapman. I am co-founder and principal consultant at Culture Curated. Culture Curated is an HR consulting firm where obviously we focus on culture. We feel like that affects every aspect of your business and your profits. We have an amazing team of HR experts with over 50 years of HR experience. And we really focus on 4 key areas, and I'll just quickly talk you through kind of what those are. So the first area is human resource management, where we handle HR needs for startups and small businesses. We may just take calls, answer questions, deal with employee relations issues, whatever they need, so they can focus on scaling their business. Larger businesses may look to us to help with specific projects, rollouts, initiatives that they're trying to implement. The second area is culture transformation. We build strategies and foster culture that not only attracts and retains top talent, but also fuels innovation for lasting organizational success. So that might look like DEI training, design thinking workshops, performance management process development, or even implementation of people analytics, just to name a few. The third area, and the area that we are most passionate about, is women helping women thrive. That seems to be the focus this month, obviously. But this really is what makes us excited to come to work every day. This is a dedicated initiative and a huge passion of ours that we focus on supporting women and helping to transform social expectations of women. We help individuals and organizations think through work-life harmony strategies, how to confront microaggressions, and truly understand the double bind that women frequently face at work and in life. And lastly, we provide coaching services, and this is to elevate leaders at all levels, whether that's the executive level, HR professional development specifically, working moms, high potential, whatever, we're here for you. So I'm very excited to be here today and to be part of this discussion. Looking forward to the dialogue.
Thank you, Susan. Well, empowering women, talking about culture is right up our alley. So really excited to dive into this conversation today. We also have Amanda Johnson, our Chief People Officer here at Cultify, joining our panel. Amanda, would you care to say a few words? Thanks so much for being with us today as well.
Yes, thanks, Kristen. It's always a pleasure to join you on these calls in season. I'm looking forward to the dialogue as well. I'm Amanda Johnson, the Chief People Officer at Cultify. And, we like to say sometimes it's Chief People Officer of Operations because I'm heavily involved in multiple roles within the organization. Over the course of my career, I typically have been on the client-facing side of business. And so, whenever I have my clients, I always take a very fiduciary role in working with them. And so I like to say the same thing about our human capital, our employees. They are our clients in HR. And so as HR leaders, it's important for us to see them as, valuable assets to our organization. And so, at Cultify, we like to say culture is your brand in action. And so that's your people living out, your mission, vision, and values, and their experience inside the organization is, it's very important to us. And so looking forward to this conversation today as we, talk about recognition as a performance driver. We all know within relationships, we want to be recognized and we want to feel valued. And so Susan, thank you for joining us within this conversation. I'm looking forward to kicking things off.
Absolutely. Well, today we're going to get started and we're talking again about recognition as a key to cultivating high performance cultures and amplifying brand reputation. And this is especially important when it comes to engaging the younger generation in the workforce. And to kick this off, this is what's trending in HR. So we wanted to share a little bit about some of the trending topics, stats, and research that we found about why this topic was top of mind as we head into 2024. And just as a quick reminder for those who are tuning live, we would love to hear more about what you are experiencing in this conversation. So make sure you utilize the chat function and the Q&A, and we want this to be as interactive as possible. Now, some of the stats that we did find from a 2024 Outlook report by Hub International on this topic, I'm not going to go in too much in depth on this, but just wanted to share a little bit of the dialogue. But there's some pretty compelling data around the importance of recognition of companies surveyed in this study. Those who excel in employee recognition were 12 times more likely to generate strong business results and 31% more likely to report lower voluntary turnover rates, which is pretty significant when you think about that connection. But in 2024, it's not just any recognition programs that are really making a difference. It's personalized recognition programs where rewards are tailored to the individual that contributes to overall employee satisfaction and boosts engagement and overall productivity. So there's a lot connected to these rewards programs that we're talking about, especially when we think about the personalized nature. And this is becoming an expectation more and more with employees. So not just a nice to have, but coming in, more employees are expecting this type of tailored recognition as they join companies. So there's clearly a lot we could dive into just about based on that data alone and those stats. But I'd love to just turn it over to our panelists and hear from you guys. So Season, I'd love to kind of start with you and in your experience, what role does recognition play in shaping high performance cultures with organizations? What have you noticed? How have you seen that correlation?
So let me start first I want to establish maybe a definition, an operational definition of some sort. So I really do view recognition and appreciation as very different entities. Recognition is way more nuanced than appreciation. So appreciation may look like, you give a Christmas gift card, you may have periodic, corporate-wide meals or just different things like that are for everyone. It's not necessarily, probably not going to be customized. Maybe you take someone out for their birthday, that kind of thing. But recognition is about an individual's contributions. And in order to really be good at recognition, you have to really know your people. You have to know their strengths, and you have to take that into consideration along with what are their likes and dislikes, what are their motivators and demotivators to truly customize recognition in a healthy way. So now that I got that out of the way, so anytime I'm talking about recognition, I'm sure Amanda will tell you the same thing. We really are talking about the individual and customization. So first, let's talk about what the core of that is, knowing your people. So I'm going to call that talent management. Like, you have to know what their strengths are, how they operate, maybe even you may want to know what their weaknesses are. You have to know what their weaknesses are, but you need to find ways to put them in roles and opportunities that are going to showcase those strengths. So when you are able to know those things, then customizing next experiences, next roles, even just in their day-to-day work, you are helping to send the signal when you are focusing on what they're good at and what their strengths are, that we believe in you, we trust you, and we're investing in you and have a plan for you. So recognition is not always going to be something novel or this, it has to be a huge bonus or a specific tangible thing. Sometimes it is going to be about the opportunities that you give them. It's going to be just about the conversation and acknowledging what they bring and how they operate. But it can also be those other things too: the promotions, the pay, the benefits, the time off. There are lots of ways to give recognition.
Yeah, and I would completely agree with you on that. A couple of weeks ago, one of the roundtables we hosted was just about well-being and the individual employees being able to bring them whole selves to work. And so when you're thinking about that that when you think about the personalized touch and what recognition really is, knowing the employee, really knowing what contributions they have brought to the company, and, kind of being mindful of their personal circumstances for those individuals, who are bringing them whole selves to work. Um, but they may have faced, adversities in their personal lives, and still being able to perform for the organization that they work for. Those are employees that are worthy to be recognized, because they're still driving performance, but, they're also being noticed in the workplace. And I think as organizations are able to, truly recognize the employees, we know it's going to boost morale, right? Um, we know it's going to be able to give them a little bit more motivation. And so, we know that motivation is now going to be that trigger for engagement. So if we're looking at recognition as a, performance driver, it's imperative that organizations think about, their recognition programs. Are they really listening and identifying those contributions, you know, um, to the employees, or identifying those contributions that the employees are making, because in today's market, we do feel like employees are brand ambassadors, basically, for the organizations that they work for. And so if we're trying to attract new talent and, recruit new talent, it's important that, our employees feel value um, in such a manner, that their behaviors that they're doing are also now, being duplicated by other employees, when we have a strong recognition program in place. And so I completely agree with you on that, Season, and really identifying, those contributions that the employees are making, and not just having general, opportunities to give someone, small tokens
And
of
I love how you said
appreciation.
it, that you bring someone who can bring their whole self to the job, to work. And the managers who are allowing that type of environment and can do that well, where again, their gaps, but you're not focused on their gaps. You are focusing on what makes them great at what they do. And that is what allows them to bring their whole self to work. That, yeah, they know they're not
Mhm.
perfect. None of us are. We all have our
Yeah.
gaps. So let's spend less time focusing on those things and really harness what they're good at. And make sure you, as the manager and the leader, are putting them in circumstances where they get to shine.
Yeah, I love that. I love the distinction between appreciation and recognition too. And to both, I think you both mentioned it, just understanding the uniqueness that your people want when it comes to recognition. I think, it depends on so many factors, right? Of where they are in their career, where they are in life stage. And so being able to connect and to ask those questions, and then to actually take action on that, so that your people can see they're actually hearing me. And so then, Season, when you're saying, we want them to know that we believe in them, we trust them, we want to invest in them, when a team can actually see that a company is asking them questions, seeing what matters to them, and actually taking action on that, I think that's so powerful in cultivating a culture that recognizes and invests in their people, and in turn develops a high performance culture. Um, so I think that's a really powerful distinction to highlight that you said earlier. And I'd love to kind of think, looking at what rewards and recognition systems currently have been, what have you seen in terms that needs to evolve as we kind of look at today's current workforce? Things are very different today in 2024 than they were even a few years ago in 2020. And so how have you seen things change? How maybe should things continue to change as we think about this topic?
So you are very right. Things have changed dramatically since 2020. So that definitely changed how we all operate and kind of what are just our basic expectations. Um, I will say when I first started in HR, recognition was that more appreciation based model. It was, what you maybe you got your service award, you get to pick out a neat little gift or whatever, and that was considered recognition. And I think it looks very different today. So I'll give you an example of where I saw it work well, and then we can kind of talk about how that's changing. So I was lucky enough to work in a group that had some amazing talent. It was probably the highlight of my career. They were, I mean, we all knew what we were good at, and we got to, put each other up in positions where they could really shine. So, one example that I'll give was actually not a good one. We had a major technology project, millions of dollars. And this particular part of the business was turning through people so fast that we were losing. I mean, we couldn't even get to the technology implementation, and it was going to cost the company a lot of money. It was a culture disaster. I've, honest to goodness, never seen anything like it, and hope I never see anything quite like this again. But as a management team, we all came together and we're like, what are we going to do? Because this, we've already invested millions of dollars in this technology. We have to make it successful. And obviously something is really wrong if we're losing people and churning through people that quickly. So we, as a leadership team, we got together and said, okay, what are the skills that we desperately need in order for this to be successful? So understanding the skills was the first step, but then figuring out who had those skills, who had those strengths, who had demonstrated those in the past. So we figured that out. We now had to tackle the awful job of going to these people and saying, hey, we think you're amazing and we need you to take on the worst position you will probably ever go into, because it is a disaster. It's going to be a lot of hours. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be exhausting. But here is what we see in you. Here's what we've seen you demonstrate in the past. And we think you are the perfect person to help us be successful. You have our commitment that we will support you every step of the way. You tell us what you need, we'll check in. We will make sure you get the resources that you need and that you have the support that you need. So surprisingly, we only had one person say, I don't think that's the right role for me. But all the other folks that we identified said, absolutely, I'll take it. Probably with some thought and maybe some, sleepless nights leading up to it. But so what happens is, because we were able to identify their strengths and be able to tie it to them as an individual about what they're good and what they bring to the table, this really ended up feeling like they recognize me. They see me, they know me. And then we lived up to what we said we'd do. We met frequently. We removed the obstacles that were in their way. We said, that's an interesting idea. Never thought of that. Let's do it. Let's try it. How can we try this? How can we make this work? What in here? We'll give you more resources and support. So all that to say, I'm painting this picture as you have to know your people. You can even ask them to go into terrible circumstances, that it is going to be hard. You're going to need a lot of grit. You're going to need a lot of support. And we were able to do that successfully. And what came out of this is, yes, we did some legitimate recognition throughout, some spot bonuses, some different things throughout that process. But on the flip side of this, they showcased exactly what we knew they could. And executives saw them in action, saw the difference that they made. And so they were able to secure future promotions as a result of that. And they were always known for the difference that they made in that particular case. So all that to say, to answer your question about how is it evolving, you have to know your people. You have to know their skills, and you have to tee it up in such a way that you are supporting them. I'm going to go back to what Amanda said earlier, where they can bring their whole self to work. And that might be the creativity and doing things out of the box. And you know what? We as a leadership team are going to support that.
Man, I absolutely love that. Because one of the things that I'm thinking about on the evolution of everything and what a lot of employees want right now in the workplace is the opportunity for learning and development, or development and growth. And so for you all to be able to see that and give them that opportunity, that was life changing for some of them, I can imagine, in their careers, because, had that situation never happened, they may not have had the same, development and growth. And that means more to a lot of people, I feel, right now, than just the monetary, reward, knowing that you are equipping them, in their growth journey, in their career journey, to be able to be more than just an employee, because that is now that experience, I'm for sure, will go with them from a personal level, years down the road. And so as we think about, things continuing to evolve, again, the personalization, like you mentioned, flexibility right now, I feel, post, or kind of 2020 and post 2020, are you recognizing your employees by, giving them that space to be able to be flexible given their personal, lives even. We know we want to get a lot of people back to work, and inside the office, I should say, not back to work, but inside the office. And, how we do that, I think having more of a flexible work life, versus just a hybrid situation, or we're in office, or we're all remote. I think it's really, that personalization on what employees need and what the company needs, especially if we're talking about performance. We still want our employees to perform, but now what's the good bridge into all of this? And we feel like it is, you just have to be flexible, in understanding, certain jobs, or understanding employees still have to get their jobs done, right? But what they need personally, and then now how can we cater, that schedule, where we're both winning, right? The organization's winning. And so would love, Season, for you to also, share some of your experience on in this post-COVID world regarding the flexible work life, and what that looks like this, in today's time in regards to recognition of employees.
Yeah, so I was actually thinking of some of the headlines that you're hearing from some of the large companies of, they're having everyone come back to the office, regardless if it makes sense or not. So, you hear of people who are having to drive to an office an hour, hour and a half away to keep their jobs. And they're going to an office where they don't even work with the folks. Like they have zero interaction with the people they're around. So to me, like that systematic decree, like you've got this decree as a business that we have to be back in the office without thought process into what does the individual need, what makes sense. And I get it. There's large organizations out there. I think those smaller companies are going to get the edge that get to be creative and get to think about what makes sense. And to me, that does not make sense to go to an office where you have zero contact with and conversations and being able to brainstorm, because that is the perk of being in the office, is the collaboration, but you can do it electronically too. So I'll give you an example. As we're moving into the pandemic, I'm starting up a people analytics department at my previous employer, and we're hiring a data scientist. And data scientists are a hot commodity. I'm assuming they still are, but they were a hot commodity back in 2020, and they were hard to find and they were expensive. And so we finally found one that we're like, this person is perfect for the role. And they came back and said, I can't do it in person. Like there was some life circumstances that came up, and I was like, no, this is the right person. So we tested our comfort level with remote work at that point in time, and it worked seamlessly and flawlessly. And we found ways to connect as a team, connect to the business where you can do it just like this and have meaningful conversations. And yes, we brought the person in on occasion to come in for specific meetings and interactions and to meet, like the onboarding process. But there's definitely ways to make that a success. It's going to be both and. It's not one or the other. It's not all in the office or all out of the office. And everyone works very differently. This particular person was, it was seamless. There was no issue whatsoever. Where I was in the office most of the time. It worked better for me, my style. I like the schedule, the discipline of just getting into the office and then being able to have those occasional conversations down the hallway, but everyone's different. I don't know if I answered your question, Amanda, but I definitely think creativity is, again, creativity, knowing the individual, knowing their strengths, and being able to customize where it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that totally answered my question, because, it's really continuous evolution, right? And adaptation, and just being flexible in the sense that I think we will win more because now, your organization has, and, when we look, like you said, when you look at your data scientists, that's a huge role that, and it's not a lot of people out there who, meet the criteria, but now in order to get the job done, in order to perform for the company, it was important to be a little bit flexible right there. And so our ultimate goal, or a lot of businesses' ultimate goal, they have to make money, right, in order to employ, in order to do business. And so if we don't have the people to do the work, it will ultimately impact the bottom line from that, from there. So
And
yeah, that's great.
I'll give you one other thing that I would say I tend to recommend most to leaders, especially leaders who haven't done a lot of remote work with their teams and that kind of stuff. I'm a huge fan of design thinking. If you don't know what that is, I think it's worth looking into, just about the concepts and how it can kind of change how you operate. It forces you to look at things make you ask questions like, how might we, and can we try it? How do we test it? How do we test small, fail fast kind of concepts? So in this particular case, you have an employee's coming to you and saying, hey, Amanda, I really want to work 100% remote. Like I need it for whatever circumstance, or I want to try this. And my advice to managers is don't shut it down. Why not say, let's see how we could do this. So tell me, employee, like how do you see this working? How would we have our interactions? And then get to the point where maybe you test it for 2 weeks, 4 weeks,
Mhm.
and we have weekly check-ins. How's it going? What's working? What's not working? Why not test it? If it's going to fail, it's going to fail. So
Mhm.
fail fast, and you gave that employee the opportunity to demonstrate how they can be productive, how they can continue to be a part of the team, and how you might operate differently. It's in my mind, it is always worth testing before saying no,
Absolutely agree.
unless it's illegal. That's not.
Yeah,
That's a great.
absolutely
But
agree.
yeah, I love that too because there's so much technology, and we talk, a lot about Zoom that we're on right now that kind of took off in 2020, but technology has evolved, and I feel like it's just continuing to evolve and get better and better and better to bring teams together. So for those hybrid teams, or teams that are global, right? Being able to work in workspaces that are collaborative, being able to connect real time, whether it's one-on-one or in a group context, not to mention better able to engage clients around the world. The technology is just improving so quickly. And so being able to stay on top of that and being able to leverage that to help personalize and customize those different work situations, as you're talking about, Season, for your people, and being able to say, might we, could we, let's try this and see what works. I think there's so much opportunity with the technology that is out there and continues to change. And sometimes it can be a little intimidating, right? Because technology is changing and, oh, do we want to integrate something new? But oftentimes that younger generation is probably already aware of how best things can be done with technology. And so even tapping into that younger generation and their experience of, well, how could we do this better? Could you look into this technology, this platform? How could this work for our organization? And, as you said, looking for opportunities to fail fast, to test it so that you can really leverage the technology and empower your people. I think that's what we get excited about at Culture Rise. We talk about how can technology make your team better, and how can your team leverage your technology to be better, faster, smarter. And I think connection and real-time connection for diverse virtual hybrid teams, global teams is a key component of that.
You said that way better than I did.
Well, I'd love to jump a little bit more towards the connection between recognition and a positive work environment. I think you guys both touched on that, but I'd love to go a little bit deeper about how is that connected? What is the connection between recognition and building that positive work environment, or as we like to say, culture, a work-life culture here at Culture 5?
So I don't know about you, but I mean, my positive experiences, or my extreme positive or my extreme negative experiences, I'm way more willing to share, or willing. I just share it. I don't know.
Mhm.
All the stuff in the middle, I'm probably more likely just to leave unsaid completely. But if I have a really positive or a really negative experience, I'm probably tend to share that with folks around me, whether that's inside the organization or outside the organization. Now, with that said, I would always say your really bad stuff, you maybe want to keep that to a few people that you want to share that with inside to the company, or that can be a new set of issues. But when it comes to the like just the perception of an organization and creating a positive work environment, it all kind of connects in my mind. So if your manager knows you and sees your whole self, like allows you to bring your whole self to work, I think that is just going to reinforce that positive work environment that you are looking. It's natural, it's organic, it's not forced. But it's a hard, I say a hard skill. It is a rare skill to find in a lot of managers, unfortunately, of just knowing your people and being able to say, you know what, I know this is an area that you don't love to, like, this is a demotivating task or ask of you. And I know that, and I'm sorry to ask you to do this, but can you, and then let's debrief how it went and how can I help? Like, if you know the whole person, even where they struggle or don't like certain things, then it allows you to, again, like, let's test it. Let's see how we can do it. And how can we, is there a different way to do it? I'll tell you, one of the tasks that used to drive me crazy was just this repetitive task that you knew. So back to what you said, Kristen, where you knew that there was a technology that could like solve that, it could automate it, it could like leave out my total intervention of me keying something in a spreadsheet over and over, or taking, whatever it is. There's another way of doing it. So if you create this environment where someone can, offer the suggestions of how to take out the tasks that they don't like, potentially, not getting the job done, still got to get the job done. But how do you creating that environment of where we can test, we can try things, we can even fail. But let's talk about how we failed, why we failed, and let's do it fast so it doesn't create huge detriment. All of that stuff, again, the recognition piece is coming in the conversations and acknowledging the person. And if we need to talk through like different ways of recognition, we can. I don't know that we've highlighted a lot of that. I mean, obviously, you've got the money piece and all that kind of stuff. We can get into that if we need to. But the person, who they are, is hands down the most important part of recognition. I'm not sure I answered your question though, Kristen.
Yeah, because all of that is creating a more positive work environment. And so when you have that positive work environment, we know that organizations, who have positive work environments now have that engagement. And then organizations who have engaged employees are typically 23%. I forgot which, stat that came from, but 23% more profitable. And so everyone's winning at that point. As you're mentioning, it's you have to get through difficult tasks and difficult assignments. But if you're breaking it down, and understanding how can we, test it, as you mentioned, let's test, slowly, but it's all in a manner to accomplish the task. And it's not creating, any kind of toxic environment, but still maintaining that positive environment that now goes into, from a manager standpoint, that growth and development opportunity. And so not looking at, I just want, just do what I say, or just get the job done, or you figure it out. And then especially if there's technology to be able to make things easier, or, different processes that, that actual employee now can contribute and be a part on, really feel a part of the solution. All of that is just working together, in a very collaborative environment that now I feel like that, starts working, just building a positive work environment. And so, I think, yeah, having that positive work environment, the personalization, being the employees being visible, to the managers, and feeling like they are visible to the organization. I think all that helps kind of fosters a good positive work environment.
And I would
Yeah,
even say as a
absolutely.
team, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Susan.
I was going to say, even as a team, like if you're recognizing what the different contributions of each of the individuals or where their strengths are, as a team, I think you'll start to see if the leader or the manager is doing that, then I think you'll see as a team that they naturally gravitate towards each other to like pull from and glean and learn from those individuals that are really good at that thing that may offset their lack of strength in that particular area. And it just becomes a really healthy. So the collaboration is there, the energy is there when that happens. So I do think the leader tends to be the one that would need to set that tone, but I think it can happen in spite of the leader too, honestly, if people are talking about what each person brings to the table, and you're looking for what they're good at. If you're always looking for what they're good at, then you're going to be able to I'm going to call that person when I need them. And again, that's not formal recognition, that's peer recognition. That's you are feeling seen and heard by your peers. And to me, that is incredibly important to create that positive work environment too.
Yeah. And I'll just chime in, Kristen, I know we're moving on, but Susan, thank you for bringing that up, that peer-to-peer recognition. I think that's where the world is evolving as well, and just having more opportunities for peers to recognize each other in the platforms available, that they can do that, because I think that's very important.
Absolutely. And I was even just going to tag on to what you guys were both saying. At Culturify, we talk a lot about empowering employees to create personalized culture strategies where it's really bringing their whole life to work, as you both mentioned earlier. So, talking about their professional skills, their professional goals, but also their life experiences, their other skill sets. Maybe it's not connected to my day to day job, but maybe it's something that could be a huge asset during a season of change in an organization. And Season, to your point, if my manager knows I have this skill set and something happens in the organization where we need to pivot and lean into some of those skill sets, then maybe I'm the right person to step into that And then my career growth can be a different direction than maybe we thought, which, in this world where people want to change jobs and careers so often, then I'm able to step into something new and grow and be invested while staying with the same organization. And so for younger generation, I think that is really exciting too, because not only is my manager knowing my skill set, they're able to invest in it when it makes sense. And then Amanda, to your point, the peer-to-peer, I'm able to lean on my peers and say, oh, actually, I can help out with that because that's something that I have that skill set. I just don't do it all the time, but let me step in and help out with that. And so I think um, utilizing those opportunities to really empower your people to create those, even just a simple profile that highlights things outside of just their job description, I think is really, really powerful and helps move the needle in teams and with managers and along colleagues to help uh, build that connection that you're talking about. And that can be done even in hybrid remote teams as well, right? By highlighting those things in our colleagues. So I think that's really exciting and speaks a lot to what this generation in the workforce up and coming is looking for, and can be really, really powerful in connecting that recognition and performance in so many levels that you're talking about. Um, and I did want to just tap into a topic that we mentioned a little bit. So we talked about recognition contributing to a positive work environment. Amanda, what impact does that have on brand perception externally? I think you both have mentioned that a little bit, but I wanted to talk a little bit about that as well. How does recognition and building a culture of high performance recognition impact our employer brands internally and even externally?
Yeah, as Susan mentioned, she's going to, and we all will tell our experience, whether it's positive or to the extreme negative. If we have the extreme positive, we're going to go out and share it, right? We're sharing it with the public. There's nothing worse than, you're at a dinner party talking about your desire to go remote, and completely being shut down. And back in 2009, personally, when I had my daughter, um, there was another employee at my organization, who had the opportunity to work remote, post delivery. And once the little baby came, well, I was thinking that would be an opportunity for myself as well. This is, many years ago now, 14 years ago, where we weren't exactly in a remote environment. However, based on my actual job and the tasks that needed to be done, it could totally, have been done remote. And I also had a colleague who kind of tested it out. And so, originally it was shut down, no, like zero thinking for his full-time remote. Then afterthought came back and said, well, if you want to go remote, um, you can take one day off. So you'll have Fridays off, right? And from that point, you'll also have a 20% pay cut. So it was just like you're one day off for the week. Here's a 20% pay cut. So now I'm a, new mom trying to figure out how can I spend a little bit more time with my baby. But then at the same time, I don't want a 20% pay cut because my job is going to require me to do the same amount of work that has to be done. And so now I just found myself doing the same amount of work in 4 days versus the fifth day, but then not feeling value, having that 20% pay cut. And so, of course, during that time period, I'm sharing my experiences, and it wasn't the most, positive for the brand at that time. And looking back, we all have things that we have to make decisions on and what makes sense because it was an organization that I did love. And I just chose to go back to work. Baby had to go into daycare, but because I had to get my job done, I chose, okay, well, let me get my full salary back. And so it's little things like that that will impact the organization's brand, which now may prevent organizations from attracting top talent. Because if the goal is to, be able to recruit, and that was back in 2009, now in a post-COVID, or not, I don't want to say post-COVID world, but the world has changed since 2020. And so the impact, in a couple of ways, you know, one, we have to be flexible and think about, our efforts to attract that top talent. But then, in the same sense, in the same sense as we're making, talking about brand in particular, we also have a lot more technology today. And so social platforms are way more prevalent right now that, one influencer can make or break a brand, pretty much instantly in an hour's time period, right? As people have access to the phones and access to, instant information. And so you don't want to put, anything damaging out there for your company, if you don't treat your employees in a manner as they desire to be treated, it will ultimately impact the brand. And I think one of the new statistics that came out in February from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, we currently have a little over 9 million jobs available, right? But then if we look at our unemployment rate being kind of the lowest right now at 6 million, even if every single person was to get employed tomorrow, we're still going to have that gap. So as we're all kind of competing to, attract top talent, it's imperative that we have programs in place that are acknowledging our employees, recognizing our employees, because we do want them to ultimately be the brand ambassadors for us based on their experience that they, have at work. And so that's just, kind of my perspective a little bit, and just from a personal experience, I know how, an employee's experience can impact the brand of an organization.
Yeah, your people are really your best brand ambassadors for either good or bad. And knowing that, and especially in today's digital world with social media, it can be a huge asset or a huge detriment. But that connection is so critical to keep in mind and to leverage. And, people want to talk about when they love their job and when they love their team and they love their manager. Work is such a huge part of our lives that you can't not talk about it. And so being able to develop cultures that empower your people, they're going to talk about that. And that's huge for an internal and external brand perception. Absolutely. Well, as we look ahead, I'd love to talk a little bit looking towards the future, and maybe talk a little bit about what are some emerging trends and technologies that you're seeing will be or are playing a pivotal role. And maybe speaking to Susan, you mentioned we hadn't talked a lot about the different types of rewards and recognition. Maybe you could speak a little bit to that about what you see emerging, what's working well, what is going to be more important moving forward.
So I'll speak to a little bit on the first part of that question on the types of technologies that I think are already out there. It's not necessarily the future. It might be the future for some organizations, but it's already here. And that, I mean, obviously the technologies that are going to help you, assist you in getting the data that you need, the information that you need, or just even to help you with your transactional work that you have to get done. You've got your HRIS systems. You've got survey technology out there. There's some fantastic survey tools that can help you not only get engagement related data on an annual basis or whatever your frequency is, but then also like rapid pulse information, like things that you want to get information out there every couple of weeks, maybe once a week, whatever your strategy is. There are tools that definitely can deliver and make that easier and better and combine it with other data sets that will be powerful. But the other piece of that, and to me, and again, it's a bias because it's kind of the life that I lived before moving into this to this consulting role, is people analytics. There are tools out there, there are philosophies out there that can help you bring all of those data sets together that inform you about your talent, that inform you about your organization and the health of the organization. And starting up a people analytics area is going to be focusing on those core data sets. So what's in your HRIS system, like your tenure, the demographics of your people, their pay, their performance. So those are the core basic type of information. But then you start like overlaying that with things like the survey data. Maybe you're not going to take that down to the individual level, but the aggregated level for a department or a division or something like that. You start being able to put pieces of the puzzle together, the story together, and understanding why things are happening or why things are likely to be happening. So you start bringing all this together. But as much as I can talk, and I'll let Amanda talk for it a little bit, but as much as I can talk about the power of how that data coming together and how you can see trends and themes before they become problematic, or maybe you're just answering questions of why is our turnover bad? Like what's happening? We need to dissect that. you still have to talk to people. You still have to know your people. So the data is only going to be as good as it's there. It's a huge component of what you need to know. But if you don't know your people and you don't know their struggles and you don't know what they enjoy and don't enjoy, and you're not finding out about just what do we call it, the water cooler talk, then you're never really the power of the data is not going to be there, because you could make some pretty bad decisions just based on data alone if you do not have a pulse, if you do not know your people and you do not know what the struggles are. So all of that together is a powerful organization. It's one that is a healthy culture that, yes, you need data, you need information, you also need conversations, and you need to understand, again, where your people can bring their whole selves. So I do think the world of people analytics, these platforms that are out there, are going to help inform you at a faster pace. You will be curious about something and you can dig into the data pretty quickly, instead of what used to take, I don't know, a month of gathering reports and saying, I think this might be, we may have a turnover issue because maybe maybe they don't like third shift, or maybe this supervisor we think is a problem. But you can see that stuff at a much faster pace now. That will help you now craft better questions and get more curious and go ask the questions and go talk to people before it becomes problematic. And just one last thing I'll say, and then I'll turn over Amanda for a second, is you're hearing a lot about technology that is helping you understand who might be at risk for attrition, who might leave. Which there's some things that make me excited about that as someone who's done people analytics, but it also scares the crap out of me to think about how something behind the scenes is telling us that. However, if you have the right culture, and again, a culture that is prepared to ask questions, not jump to conclusions, not get upset, it's just information, then it can really give you the power to be more curious faster. Maybe the technology can pick up on something before someone's willing to talk about, hey, I have this particular struggle. Maybe there's something going on at home. Their performance took a slight dip before we even noticed it, or maybe their attendance took a slight dip before we had noticed it. There was some change in behaviors that the technology can catch on. But if we're curious, then we ask questions of, tell me what's going on, how are things going? Then you can be very intentional about your questions and hopefully save a high potential person from leaving your organization at that point.
I absolutely love that. Absolutely love that, because it's that human element, right? We all want to lead with empathy and understand, really have a genuine, interest in understanding our employees first. And it's just powerful that we can leverage technology for that purpose, but never forget the intentions and never forget the human element of it. As Kristen mentioned, one of the things that excites me at Cultrify is that personal brand strategy of an employee, as they're able now to put in their life experiences and put in their skills. It's all being able to now capture additional data that's not in your traditional HRIS system, that's not being captured just solely from that data, the analytical standpoint that, HR has traditionally captured. But now we're able to get personal interest, and then you match that with a community platform. We're not talking about Facebook or other platforms, but it's solely for the purpose of the organization to build community. And now, when you have that opportunity where employees can share amongst each other and put faces to names. Some organizations are so big to the point, and I would even say so small. We have, one client in particular who has about 450 employees across 3 states. Well, those employees in different states, typically have not had a chance to interact with each other because, they're also departmentalized in the states. So, IT is in one state, but then you have operations, in another state. And so they already typically have not had to have a lot of engagement with each other. And so when we, go in and be able to, one, do our live events when we're, getting everyone together for team meetings and building culture through our engagements, it was amazing to see how, some of them, that was their first time really seeing each other and interacting with each other. And so now to be able to have a, technology platform to be able to keep that conversation ongoing, I think that helps build culture, because when we get to know each other, that starts personalizing the individual. Managers get to know, their employees. Departments get to know, you're now crossing departments. Being able to just get to know each other, which gives an opportunity for that peer-to-peer recognition, where they're able to give each other a shout out. Oh, I was able to see, so and so get a reward, get an award externally at, it could have been with the chamber or it could have been with the, junior achievement or different organizations that they're a part of. And now they're just able to celebrate each other in their own ways, leveraging technology. And so, like I said, in Cultify, just having that community platform. We also have workspaces, for instance, where it's almost that water cooler talk. So if we can be, we could be across, employees in Georgia, employees in California. Now they can all join the workspace at any given moment and be able to just ask each other, hey, how are you doing? Because they're a part of the same workspace. And within workspaces and the community functions, you have your employee resource groups. So all different types of ways to connect, similar interests and connect the employees. I think leveraging technology is going to be the best way to do that because we can't physically, fly everyone back and forth. And the frequency of that is just, we just know that's not reality. To be able to get everyone together in person all the time. But if we can leverage technology to build teams and, just to have some of that social engagement, even where everyone feels safe and connected, I think that helps, build the culture of the organization. But also it's a very, economical, side on the recognition that, one, it shows opportunities to, be able to recognize the employees, but as well as, see opportunities for that growth and development. Because we know if, we're engaging in a better, way, there may be opportunities that we identify, you know, um, for just growth opportunities within the organization.
I think there's definite power in the data and it can make us faster and better. So I'm just thinking of, some of those groups that have, lots of employees or larger organizations where it is almost impossible to like visually lay your eyes on where every person is in their pay, where the market it has
Mhm.
moved and pay, like maybe this particular job's a hot job and it's moved up in pay and you should probably be paying someone $20,000 more than what you are now. Those are things that are hard to keep your eye on as an individual person. But if you have spent the time to invest in your technologies to make sure you have good data sets, that you have a good understanding of what it is, you have clean data, but all this stuff can help inform you. So the two
Mhm.
examples I'll give is that pay example of technology can catch it faster than we may be able to. Maybe that's not true. You may be having a conversation with someone and they say, I feel like I'm underpaid. It's your responsibility to react to that. But the data can help you see everything in the organization at a much faster pace. So it'll help you keep an eye on that. And then what if you have someone who really is top talent and they're amazing and it would be a huge hit on the organization if they were to leave? But what if they haven't gotten a promotion in a long time? Or like there's just things that it can
Mhm.
draw to our attention. Or what if they actually applied for 4 jobs? They just weren't very vocal about it. They've applied for 4 jobs and other parts of the organization got turned down for all of them. So now you've got a top talent employee who is completely demotivated because they continue to get, turned down by their current organization. So technology can help us intervene on these things that we're not necessarily able to watch with our eyes just because we're busy. We all have our things that we're responsible for. But I'm a firm believer in that you have to take the time to get your data the way that you need it, that you have access to the things that you need to see. HR needs to be able to see these things and then put it in a format that can inform technologies that are using AI that are going to be able to catch these things and help us complement our conversation. But something that we keep coming back to, Amanda, is like, okay, that's good. Now it's time to have a conversation and the
Mhm.
human centric part of it that has to be there, even with AI.
Yeah,
Yep.
I love that. Season, one thing that you said that really jumped out was the ability to utilize the data or the technology to analyze data, flag early trends, but not jump to conclusions and to ask questions. And I think that just made me think of in Cultify our approach to this AI technology, which, it's still new. It's still sometimes people think, is this just, trendy here today, gone tomorrow? Is it going to take over? Am I going to lose my job with it? And then really our approach is exactly what you talk about with this idea of fused intelligence, of blending human expertise with the power of AI. And that's exactly what you're talking and encouraging leaders who might be listening today to say, we have these technologies, maybe I haven't tapped into them. How does that, what does that look like? Maybe I'm a little hesitant of it, but it's just blending that fused intelligent perspective, to blend the human expertise with the power of AI and helping your people know how to do that in their own individual roles. I think is really exciting and can really help move the needle both in developing cultures of high performance that people want to be a part of, that people want to talk about, but also will help move organizational objectives forward and increase business success. And so those things are so intertwined. And so I know we just barely scratched the surface on this conversation. We could probably be here for another hour. But I think you guys covered a lot of great insights here. And so our hope really is that for those who are tuning in, this sparks some ideas, sparks some conversations, some questions that you can bring to your own teams. But thank you guys so much for being here. And of course, a little Culture5 plug. If we have a lot of solutions that can help move the needle in a lot of the challenges that were mentioned by both Susan and Amanda. And so if you're looking to help your community, your culture, your team better connect, better communicate, you're looking for ways to better understand your people, what are they wanting? Or maybe you're just saying, how can I better tailor my rewards? How can I leverage AI? We can help with all of that. So we would love to connect with you guys. So please reach out at info@culture5.com, and we can connect with a member of our team. But, of course, we would not be here without our amazing panelists. So thank you so much, Susan and Amanda. We really appreciate you being here. And we want to make sure that those who are tuning in can connect with you guys if they would like to. And so we dropped your contact information into the chat. So please make sure to reach out on LinkedIn, network, connect. We want these times to be an opportunity of knowledge sharing, but also building a community of those who are in the industry and are wrestling with these challenges about organizational culture and engagement and performance. And we want to be a community that can help connect and encourage one another in your own organizations, wherever that may be. So thank you both again for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Susan.
Absolutely.
And of course, coming up, we are here every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And so we'll be back next week with one of our personal favorite topics here at Culture5, employer branding. So how do you enhance your employer brands? What role does culture play? And how can AI technology help you move to that next level across the board? So mark your calendars. If you've ever had questions or you want to just hear from some experts who are doing this really, really well, you don't want to miss this conversation. So thank you guys so much for being here again. Susan, Amanda, appreciate you. And to everyone else, we hope you had a great time with this conversation, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.